hate, I'm defying. Hard labor, I came here to modify the system. Take them down if they ain't listening. Straight demolition. From young, everything resistant. Good times I don't really miss them. Gotta pay the cost, no tick. Wick, this hard labor and I'm kicked. Never fit in with the crowd or got into politicking. You can tell I'm built different, trust me. It'll be a sequence of events if you touch me. Even when the women do it love. I've been eye to eye with great people, but you'll be mistaken if you put another one above. Hello everyone, welcome to This Week in Tyranny. It's the most hardcore news show on earth. Today is Saturday, June 15th. It's episode 80. I am your host, Conrad Rogas, and I'm going to jump right into this one. I'm pretty fired up today, and I intend to do this show this way. Not really today, but like in the past few hours. And the funny thing is, it's not really about what fires you up. Oftentimes, your trigger or catalyst for becoming angry will be something stupid, superficial, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. That is the case with me tonight. But that's not the point. The point is, we should use these things, whatever we can use, to get ourselves into an emotional state that drives action. I think more men need to do that. So I'm going to dive into, I got 2 Red Bulls and I've got nothing but time to talk about tyranny. So this week, it's about the G7 summit that is getting underway, and then also Hunter Biden's conviction. These are the main stories as I see it, so I'll talk about them. I'll start with Hunter Biden's conviction. Now, for those that don't know, President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, he is a known crackhead, drug addict, overall shady guy, right? A corrupt son of a president. So anyway, he was convicted recently of federal gun charges, because when you fill out a gun application, one of the questions they're going to ask you is if you cannot be under the influence of drugs. And of course, when you're a crackhead, you that will never be the answer to that question. So they got him for that. And then he gets convicted, and really the meaning of this what we need to take out of this is a story about a moral of the story about how to conduct yourself. And these guys who are controlling the mainstream media and Joe Biden are showing that they are playing chess, not checkers, and not so much them, not so much the senile Joe Biden, but the people in charge of the mainstream media and that are in charge of pushing out narratives. You see, they took the upper hand in this conviction, not even about what actually happened, what the court case was, but by his response to it. It's about how you come across when you're facing adversity. These were 2 politically motivated trials, right? One is the Donald Trump one that I mentioned a few episodes ago, obviously a political witch hunt. And this one also, in a classic scenario, the son of a president will never get convicted. He will never step into a courthouse. I hope you guys know how this stuff works. You know, when you have money and power, you don't go stand trial unless there's more money and power working against you. That's why Al Capone went down sooner or later. Everybody goes down sooner or later. But it's not because justice has prevailed. It's because influence and money and power has prevailed over that, right? It's a constant law of the jungle here in this world. So, but Joe Biden has come out and said that he will not pardon him, that he respects the rule of law and everything, and he looks good. And this is a lesson for everybody out here, is that how you conduct yourself matters, even if you are totally corrupt, totally senile. You come out and you say the right thing, and you can at least your face, your image looks respectable, and you have more leverage that way. Whereas with Donald Trump, well, he could be generally a better guy, a way better president, but at the end of the day, the way he speaks is sloppy. It's very sloppy, it's very irresponsible, and it's too easy for people to make him look bad. It is about public image, and Donald Trump knows damn and well good enough about public image, because that's how he built his business his businesses, he knows about public image, but then he became a political candidate and just started throwing shit at the wall, started speaking very sloppily, very loosely, even much more so than when he was on Celebrity Apprentice and the WWE. And that's not an accident either. So I was coming on here to tell you guys, hey, don't fall for it. You know, the conservatives, anybody, don't celebrate this conviction, because really, they're presenting it as like a hardship for the Biden family and showing how this guy who's mainstream and he's with, you know, all the globalists, that he's conducting himself, when it comes to family and personal life, he's conducting himself in an upright manner. That's a very important part of this narrative story, this presidency, that people are going to remember, because it gets into your subconscious, it gets into your emotions, right? So I came on to say that, but I have to give credit where credit is due. I heard Charlie Kirk and I heard Vivek Ramaswamy. They're onto this, and there is a kind of a feel right away among some of these, you know, more mainstream but still you know, alternative guys, that they're onto this. They're not celebrating this conviction. They've pointed it out that this is just going to be used to make this guy look good and to draw a contrast between him and Donald Trump. So that's a bit of a success story for the truth movement, and we don't have many of them, because this is what you have to do. This is just showing that people are not as dumb as I thought they were, that are conservatives. Because clearly you have, the people have forced that guys like Kirk and Ramaswamy, they have to be on point with this stuff, and they cannot fall so easily into the dialectics, the easy polarized thinking. And to a degree they haven't. So I was going to come on here and say, hey, look at this, guys, they're playing chess and you guys are playing checkers. Well, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, and that is a good thing. And the whole point of that story is, don't buy the headlines. You know, you got to dive into these things and use common sense. And what I mean by that is come on, when you have family members of presidents standing trial, you know that is an image move, because the justice system does not work like people think it does. It doesn't just. It's a very selective system of selective punishment. And another thing that this does, that people haven't talked about, that I want to talk about, is it misrepresents corruption, this trial, right? This is the same problem I have with Chris Hansen and To Catch a Predator and those shows, because they misrepresent pedophilia and child abuse. They make it seem like it's these wild guys, you know, this guy who has autism, or he's a drug addict or something, and he wanted to meet a 14-year-old girl to have relations with her. And through shows like that, people think that that's what the issue is, where it's not the issue. The issue with who child predators are, they're at the top of society. They're the figureheads of society. They're in all of the respective positions, the coaches, the teachers, the people like that, right? Police, the police, people who are respected in their neighborhoods time and time again, they show to be the child predators. They show to be in positions where they have the respect and the reverence of the community, and not these outcasts like in these To Catch a Predator shows. And this is the same thing. It's the political corruption version of To Catch a Predator. And now he's going to get convicted, and it doesn't matter if he goes to jail or not. It doesn't matter if Trump goes to jail or not. They've misrepresented through this. They've given a different connotation to the word corruption, because I talk about corruption all the time, where this is what this show is about. But now it's a red herring. They've made it something completely different than what it is. When we're talking about political corruption, we're talking about, you know, taking money from companies that are straight up poisoning what people are eating, like children, right? We're talking about these like Monsanto and this stuff. Like, we're talking about weapons of war, like corruption, not lying on a federal gun application, which, you know, ultimately, I think, you know, what did Hunter Biden even do wrong with this? Why should he have even filled out that application for a gun? You know, so So again, it gets to be so nuanced, because at the end of the day, this guy's part of a corrupt family, and then all his dealings in the Ukraine, and the corruption from Biden being the vice president, how long he's been in politics, it's just shadiness on top of shadiness, and theft and lies and double crosses. But they take him down for this now, and we're supposed to celebrate the justice system, where they're keeping a lot of these January 6th guys as like Guantanamo Bay type prisoners. So like, we can't support the justice system. We can't support an institution that it has historically been weaponized against political dissidents. I mean, the court, it's always been the king's court, right? So it's always been a sham. What's the history of trials? They've never been fair public trials. They were inquisitions. Take you to get questioned, to get tortured, to get burned, And now we think that it magically became this judicial, rational process. Why? The thing is, the kings have never gotten their heads cut off, and that's why you have to assume that where the crown is, there is still power. And that takes me to my next story, right, about the G7 summit. So the G7 summit is, of course, a meeting of world leaders, not quite like Bilderberg, not quite Davos, but it's a few countries, United States, Italy, France, Germany, Japan, United Kingdom. And they're meeting there, and they're going to discuss foreign policy mostly. I'll talk about what they're going to discuss. But I want to introduce this concept. I have this term now. I've talked about the occult web of control, and that Satanism ultimately is what's in the middle of that web and what controls the world. Well, what people have to remember is that this Satanism is what is called or the mindset of the ruling class is a convergent ideology, a convergent mindset. And people don't get this because it's counterintuitive. Everybody thinks, when we think of corruption, we think of who runs the world, or how money and power and influence is divided. We think of a divergent system, a pyramid, right? There's somebody at the top, there's a big dog at the top, and he's controlling different layers under him, exercising different levels of control, one over the other. And that's true to a degree, but it's not really the case. It's a convergent, it's not a pyramid, it's a convergent system. That's why I call it a web. And it's not top down, it's from the outside in. And what that means is the ruling families of old, the people who used to be the kings and the king's men, and the families who are holding the wealth, the banking families, right? Two different groups. Top technical experts like the technocrats. We're talking guys like Elon Musk, or basically people who rise to the heights of their field, but they're the kinds with a psychopathic mindset. They're psychopaths. There are a lot of high functioning psychopaths. That's another group, right? And then people completely from the outside that have never been in power, who just get into power or become influential somehow, and they happen to have a cynical and dark view of life, and they just don't like humanity, right? And they become Satanists. And even if they're not Satanists outright, like they could be those those rich families from Muslim countries, from Saudi Arabia, ultimately they all converge and they start going towards the middle, and they, because of who they are and because they've been cheating and lying and manipulating the people all their life, and they have a very negative view of the masses because they see what the masses are. So they get to the middle of this mentality, and this mentality is that basically everybody out for themselves. It's essentially Satanism. Everybody out for themselves. Genetics are king, which means they believe in eugenics. They want to eliminate all these people that are a threat to them. They want to stay within their own. They want to interbreed, just like the kings and queens of old, because this is what happens. They say absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, when you're a lifelong generational criminal and you ain't shit, you can't carry a bag of gravel or anything, you've never wiped your ass. That's how you're gonna be. You're gonna be a coward, and you're going to gravitate towards an ideology that if everybody adopts it, you will stay in power. And that ideology essentially is founded on control.
That's all Satanism is. It's control, because Satanism means exalting the lowest aspects of the human being, which is their animal passions, their animal comforts. So as long as those things are exalted, you will always be controlled, because that is the base foundation of where we're supposed to be as human beings. You know, the animal, just fight or flight, reptilian response. You know, this kind of a thing. As long as that's in control, you're in control. That's as opposed to freedom, which is an ordering system, but it's being ordered according to higher principles, according to ideals, right? Ideas, philosophy, and not just material comfort, material wealth, material control. So the system of control, the system of chaos, that is Satanism. That's in the middle here, and that is the convergent spider in the middle of the web that I'm talking about. So that's G7. You look at these guys and think, oh, these are our world leaders. They're actually not. They're actually not the world leaders. They're puppets of the world leaders. But before I get into how ridiculous they are, I just want to mention a convergent ideology is like a peer-to-peer network when it comes to computers. Right? You can have a central server, and then if you cut off the central server, then all the information is gone. But if you have a peer-to-peer network, that's how it works when you share files online with other people. And that's why Pirate Bay is still up, and it'll always be up, and you can essentially get any kind of paid software for free. You can get any kind of movies, sports. You can share it, and they cannot censor this information ultimately. You know, they can't really delete anything out here as long as people are sharing it, because you can't shoot an arrow at the center of that web and take it out, because it's convergent. That means, you know, if you take out what's in the center, you can take out one person who was uploading that information, and you still have all these different groups that are projecting that image. And that's really what it is. They're projecting an idea. So it's like, you know, you're at the movie theater and you want to stop the image, right? So you get in the way of the projector, but as soon as that happens, you cast a shadow, but then there are all these other projectors. As soon as you get out of the way, that beam of light is still there. And that is a perfect metaphor for what's going on. You want to get the leaders out of the way. You want to get Biden out of the way. You want to get these guys, you know, even George Soros and Klaus Schwab out of the way. It doesn't matter, because the children are growing up to project the same ideology. You have to battle them in the realm of ideas. And this is what fires me up, actually, is that there's so much suffering in the world and people are just straight up dying. And meanwhile, while these people are dying, not only are people not combating this in the realm of principles and philosophy, which is the only place that it can be defeated from, but also we're watching them yuck it up and laugh and shake hands and look at them, and you're still talking about inviting them out of office. How about taking them out of life? That's what you need to do, you know. Whatever. I'm not going to call for anything like that. I'm just gonna keep it moving. So I'm disgusted with these guys, you know. What's their name? Georgina Maloney, and then Biden, and all these people are getting together. I was going to upload the videos, but that'll aggravate me so much, you know. Just look up G7 meetings. You see the Pope is there. They wheeled the Pope over there. These people, you know, they're halfway clinging to life, the older ones, and the younger ones. They're such what's his name? Rashak, whoever is the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Anyway, I don't know. He's the Indian gentleman and you could see them smiling, shaking hands. They're so fake, these huge fake smiles, you know. When did so-called world leaders start acting like a bunch of spoiled high school girls, you know, like rich high school girls? It's such a sham. It's such a joke. And then you see, like, they're all meeting together, and we've seen these people, you know, we've seen their images, we've seen them on the news, and they seem like such big, respectable people. These are supposed to be the world leaders. But then you see all of them together, and it just looks like a bunch of nerds. It looks like a weird, like a nerd meeting of nerds at school, and they're so powerless. And you can see them. These aren't the people running anything. You see Zelensky, president of Ukraine, walking around the table and he like shook Joe Biden's hand to wake him up, because the man is falling asleep at the meeting. And of course, everybody's gonna have a field day with that. How funny that is. I don't know. I think Joe Biden is you can give him the most of a pass, because if he's out of it and completely, barely awake and aware of what's going on, at least he has an excuse. What about everybody else there who's, smiling? And you just need to see it for yourself, really. Biden's over there saluting them. They're all saluting each other. And this is ridiculous. I don't remember meetings of world leaders being like this. When did it just become such a joke? It's such a casual atmosphere, and you got people straight up are dying in these countries. Not only what they did with the vaccines, not only what they did after that pandemic, they're dying because of economically what they did, the inflation, the prices, all this stuff. People are committing suicide. People are losing their businesses. You still got all this child abuse going on, right? And they are really just so chipper. They're so happy about it, and that's the shit that disgusted me. And at the end of the day, though, these aren't our leaders, and that's very clear when you see them. They're representatives, but not our representatives. They're representatives of the true world leaders. They're just further out on that web. They're just thrown off of that web to represent the world leaders' interests, and they're supposed to be like bargaining with us. And I can't believe people are still voting for these people. It doesn't matter who it is. And I thought Meloni was supposed to be, the Italian leader. I thought she was supposed to be like strong and like far right, so I thought she was supposed to be different. But no, she's like the little queen bee at that party, and it's just so shameful and atrocious. They did this flag ceremony where they have all the flags of all the member countries. They have a guy with a parachute, and these parachuters are carrying. They have the parachute and then a big flag, and they're jumping off with the flag, and then they're all looking up and clapping, and Biden saluting them obsessively, and he even wandered off to salute the guy when they were supposed to take a photo together. Like I'm not exaggerating that at all. It's really a joke. But then what is actually very serious and nobody saw is that whole flag ceremony, it's the ceremony that symbolizes these nations falling into the ground. They're literally parachuting with the flags, and they're watching them come down into the ground, because that's what the people are doing. That's what these world leaders are presiding over. They're representatives of the Satanists, and Satanism is essentially a suicide mission. Because if you believe in control, if you believe in Satanism, ultimately you would drive yourself into extinction. I've always been saying this is a suicide mission. Eugenics will never work. Incest has never worked. Okay, that's why it creates hemophilia and genetic mutations. Like, nature has already given the sentence and conviction to these people, but they will do it anyway. And if we let them, we deserve it. And that's what I'm pissed off about. So they dive with these parachutes with the flags, and then they hit the ground expertly, like with the knee landing perfectly. Like they'd get a 10. If it was figure skating, they get 10s across the board. And then they clap. And then the ones with the parachutes, they are the real world leaders. They are the ones bringing the flags into the ground. These puppets, they're just watching and clapping, and you're just watching and clapping, still voting for them, and not getting out in the field of principle. Stop sending me shit on Facebook, please. Stop sending me shit, because you're not doing anything with it. So more and more I'm starting to understand Mark Passio, because that's how it goes, right? Only 80 shows. We'll see. I'll do it 4 times that and see what kind of a mood I'm in on Saturdays, right? But overall, I feel good. It's just I've been triggered tonight, and I've thought I'd do something with it, right? The state of the world doesn't really affect me emotionally too much. Only when I see suffering or I see injustice happen, like, and it hits me, and I think about everybody. I have a weird personal response to. It's like a weird. It's empathy, but it's a very strange kind where I just get real mad at what could have been different, right? I think about what could be different, and it comes across as insensitive sometimes, but that's the way I see it. Look, my role in the world is to make sure these motherfuckers do not get away with this. I see what's going on. It's not something I think, it's something I know. And most people are just talking, and you're going to talk your whole life, and you're going to die in a condition where you didn't really put a lot out there. You didn't really stay in the fight. You got to stay in the fight, and you got to get greasy when it's time to get greasy, okay? That's some hockey terminology for you guys. So the flag ceremony, through that little play and reenactment, is showing you the reality of what is really going on in the world. You're watching it crumble and fall. So the G7 is largely a puppet show. Now, who are the real ruling classes that I mentioned, right? Well, I saw this one British YouTube channel, British news story. It wasn't the BBC, but it was something along those lines. And then right after they showed these videos, the flag ceremony and everything, they cut to a news anchor talking to one of these technical experts, political experts. It was a guest, right? And this was a woman who was an official of Chatham House. And no one notices it, but Chatham House, she is one of those, she represents those world leaders. Chatham House is one of those metaphorical parachuters who are driving this world into the ground. Chatham House is a real world leader. Now, Chatham House is a British think tank, and their history is, after World War One, right? We had World War One, most, worst war of all time. All the world leaders after that met at the Paris Peace Conference, 1919, 1920. So you had, again, Americans, the British, the Italian, the French, right? They all meet together, and it was unprecedented. This is the first time in history that all the world leaders get together, because we've never had a world war. That's why we had a world war. So anyway, the American delegates and representatives went back to America after the Paris Peace Conference, and they begun the Council on Foreign Relations. That was started, okay? David Rockefeller, the Zbigniew Brzezinski, and all that. That comes later, but that is your Council on Foreign Relations. That's when it was created. Then the British delegates, they went back to England from Paris, and they created Chatham House. And that was the point of World War One, because before then it was unthinkable for world leaders to get together and plan and coordinate how they're going to run their countries. That would have never happened, but if you shed enough blood, you can do it. And that's my fucking problem. That's what pisses me off, is that our hands are being twisted behind our back, and it's massive bloodshed. I mean, I don't even have to go back 2 generations to see massive bloodshed, like in the streets, in the homeland where I'm from. And then still today, people I know, their loved ones are, they're struggling, all these health issues, people are dying everywhere. So you think that public health, so-called, you think that the health of people just went crumbling because of a natural illness, or what? Like, it just happened that way? No, it didn't just happen that way. The past few years, they've been a coordinated attack, and not so much as whatever leaked or didn't leak out of any facility, but what they did, how they did it, the mental programming that went out there, the closing down of society, the opening back, the way it's never going to go back to normal, and it was all done with influence. Very little was actually done during that time. It's all been done with influence, and the cocktails they put out there. At the end of the day, nothing was injected forcibly, ever. It was all taken willingly. And who do we have to blame for that? So that's what G7 is. It's Chatham House. It's Chatham House. It's Council on Foreign Relations, and this is the modern day Paris Peace Conference. It's even the same nations. So you're watching a puppet show. They're like the royal family, They're who's gonna shake whose hand, who's gonna hug, and then you see that's his name. Rishi Sunak is the British Prime Minister. He's leaning over. He's got this fake grin, and they're such clowns and freaks. It's largely a puppet show. But these think tanks like Chatham House and the authors of the United Nations publications and the World Economic Forum, these are your real world leaders. So it's tough not to lash out sometimes, right? But a bit of a vent, a bit of a rant is good. Why not, right? At the end of the day, my emotions drive me to right action, and I really see a lack of emotion in men. Is right? Like it's pretty crazy, So I see people sending me stuff on Facebook and when we meet at a family gathering or connect with an old friend, and I don't see the outrage. I don't really see the action. I don't see anybody who's who can taste the blood in their mouth and who wants to fight. Almost any room I walk into, I feel like I'm the most dangerous one in the room, and I think that's a problem because I'm really just a regular guy. I'm not that mean dude. I'm not a psychopath. I'm not a guy who's out for violence. I'm really like a chill, sensitive guy who, wants to be left to his own. But I'm in a world where there's a war to be fought. Like we're at war. And maybe this is what young people have to do. They have to be at the forefront of these rebellious movements, because people who are over 40, for the most part, too comfortable, not going to be willing to do the hard work, not going to be willing to really put some teeth into it. That's how I feel. Of course there are exceptions. Probably everybody who listens to me is an exception, so it's kind of an injustice in itself that you guys have to hear my ranting. But am I wrong? Like, is the world not full of ain't shit men, as I call it? A bunch of clowns, bunch of pussies, bunch of pansies. Can we just drop the gloves and fight these people? Look at G7. Look at when they sign these documents into effect. Look how many people died because of that. Water fluoridation, geoengineering, even their migration programs. Sending the immigrants out there. Not only are they hurting the people that are that are paying for the welfare, they're also hurting the immigrants, because their life is not easy either. It just makes things worse for everybody. So signatures on pieces of papers, right? All these rules, all of the regulations, all the new taxes, they're being brought in, day after day, and people are actually dying because of that, and nobody sees it because it's just a signature on a piece of paper. But it's this. You got to see the enemy in front of you, and it's time to drop the gloves and fight. That is my message, week in and week out. Yeah, sorry, there's enough people talking about love and peace and we're all one. You guys talk that, fine. I'm trying to fight, okay? We need way more people to be the counterbalance to that. Because at the end of the day, you want to be spiritually united with people who are abusing children. Why? There's a whole child abuse, and I'm not just talking about like the pedophiles in the church and the government. Like, how much child abuse is there next door with just regular people? And what is the root of all that abuse, right? Of that abuse and hatred. It's not understanding things in the realm of philosophy. It's not knowing the right principles. It's, they're just stupid, ignorant people. They just don't understand, right? And unfortunately, so many people only understand the language of violence. And you gotta talk to people in their language sometimes. So if I'm wrong for that, then I'm wrong for that. Don't worry, I'm about to do that work, and when it's all said and done, and my life has, I've lived out the remainder of my life, I'm gonna know that I wasn't wrong about that. These people need to get punched in the mouth to begin with, and then we could start talking about making this world a better place. That's my message. That's what I wanted to get out there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on This Week in Tyranny.
In this tournament, the chosen few shall be triumphant, and the devil will be decapitated. So you can keep your ducats and your dresses. I won't be emasculated. In this world of scientific madness. Scientific madness. My status is the baddest.